Thank you. Hard act to follow. Freddie, I think you, on all measures, you've got a strong culture of excellence. So you can, if you're leaving it for us to judge that for you, let us tell you, you certainly have. So you should be very proud of what you've achieved. Sorry, as I get the moose to, there we go. Thank you, Frank. All right. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where we're at, what's worked well for us. You've heard some of it over the last couple of days. I've got a scorecard there, which I'm going to go through in a little bit of detail. But in essence, we're looking over the last 24 hours or so and saying, well, where do we think we are on this measure? And we've been, I think one of the key things, just because we're green doesn't mean we've got there. Because one of the risks, we're a very process-driven organisation. So as soon as you put green in a box, everyone goes, fantastic, we don't have to worry about that anymore, we'll do something else that's more interesting and more important. So part of this is we might be green, but we've got to keep the measure, improve conversation has to constantly be there, so we can never rest on our laurels. And as I said a bit earlier on, one of my concerns right now is, we've plateaued a bit over the last couple of years. So, despite all the good things we're doing, we've plateaued. And so for us, it's about saying, okay, we've committed to a 50% improvement over an end period of time. What's that going to look like on a year-by-year basis as part of our improvement plan? And how do we therefore measure to get there? It's going to push us. It's going to be hard work, but we are going to commit to incremental improvement every year until we get to that 50% improvement. So just going through the various steps. So first up, you've heard Karen, you've heard Bridget talk about this today as well, the important things of establishing a cardiac arrest registry. So we've had a registry in place since 1999. It's got close to 100,000 records in there. So we know everything there is to know about everyone in Victoria over the last decade or so, or 20 years actually, who's suffered a cardiac arrest. So that tells us we know a lot about that. It's driven system improvements. We have constantly tested and challenged ourselves. We've looked at what's made a difference, and we are, if the evidence isn't there, we've been doing the research trials to actually see if something makes a difference or not. Some of it hasn't made a difference. In fact, we've helped contribute literature about things such as hypertonic saline and other, therapeutic hypothermia, pre-hospital and those type of things that haven't made a big difference. But we've been upfront about that, tried it, let's move on, try something else. It's supporting an active research program and it's a significant number of peer-reviewed publications as well. So we've contributed to the international evidence base and contributed to our own growth over that period of time. So I think on that one we get a reasonably good tick, got to say. Dispatcher-assisted CPR. So this is an interesting one. So a bit like Freddie said before, I thought we were doing really well in this space until I got involved with the Global Resuscitation Alliance and realised, well, actually, I don't think we are. The reason I thought we're doing really well is because I was hearing so many good stories of our dispatchers and call takers giving really good pre-arrival advice. And I look at the noun of CPR in the community and I put two and two together and said, look, we're doing some other stuff I'll talk about in a minute around CPR training, but I think it has to be the aggressive approach taken by dispatchers and call takers at the point of call. I don't know that. I can't prove that. So I think we're contributing to something in this space, but there's more to do. So we know there is dispatch instructions applied. Okay, and I've taken that surrogate measure. As we go back into this and look at it in more detail, minimal audit and QI historically in there, but now Esther are participating in some of the RQO trials with David and the team are talking about last couple of days. So how do we actually improve? We have a leadership within Esther today that I think are genuinely committed to improving cardiac arrest outcomes and to getting better at what they do, which is really important. And we're looking at how do we actually get better data exchange, because remembering we don't look after our dispatch. We might have governance over elements of it, but we don't dispatch, and so we have to work with the agency around that. But they've been really good and constructive in this space. It's testing them, but they have been. And we've appointed Matt, who's going to solve world hunger and do all things for us, so that's really good. So Matt, welcome again on board. So I've given ourselves a sort of a progressive. It's what my board usually say. It's the it's the probably 5 to 10% either side of it. It's the really if you want to be pure, it's probably red. But I've decided to give ourselves an amber in this one. Been a bit harsher on the next one, high performance CPR. So realistically, and the people in the room have done some really interesting work. Michelle's done some good work in different areas around it, but we have not systemised this issue. So the reality is that I don't have a clue what goes on when our paramedics perform CPR once they get there. I've absolutely no idea. And, I think, like any of you, until I jump on a mannequin, I think I'm doing really well until I realise maybe I'm not. So this is the real opportunity space for us. We've done some work around reducing pauses, LMA work, other things. Good, but I'm not going to give us a real tick on this one because we've not systemised anything. It is a real current area of focus for us as an organisation, our resuscitation improvement plan. A new clinical practice guideline around this is going to our Clinical Practice Development Committee in September, and we're starting face-to-face training, as I think Karen mentioned earlier yesterday, around as part of our clinical professional development program. So this is the real focus for us over the next period of time. So it's gets across for us at the moment. Rapid dispatch, I thought we dispatched rapidly as well, but again, as you get involved with the Global Resuscitation Alliance, we're not. So we're not doing the rapid dispatch, and there's some of that is constraints around MPDS and those things, but there are UK services and others who've got over that issue, so it's not a barrier, it's just an issue, a philosophical conversation. So this is one we're not currently utilising, but will be a focus for us to how do we get ambulance and fire services and other first responders out the door more quickly. So red mark for that one. And measure defibrillation quality, not currently being utilised at all in AV. It is a current focus of improvement. You've heard, I think, Karen and others talk about this over the last couple of days. We did a pilot earlier this year. It did give us some valuable learnings about this issue, and we're rolling out CPR measurement pads to support the high-performance CPR training later this year. And our plan is to audit all VFET from an end to end to improve cardiac arrest. I've been part of the state trauma system in Victoria, and we've had some phenomenal improvements in outcomes in trauma care over the last period of time, and that's been driven by the principle of measure, improve, measure, improve. And I think for us, one of the great things about the trauma system is they have a trauma review group that actually sits down and looks at every case that's failed the parameters. So we get up there and we talk about, well, great, we've got 37% of people who are going home, or 65% of people who are getting resuscitated to hospital. What's happened to the rest of them? So the real learnings and the real opportunities are the gaps that you're there. So who are the people you're not getting to quickly enough? Why aren't you getting to them? Who are the outliers? Who are the people that you're not resuscitating at the scene? What went wrong there, or what wasn't optimal in those circumstances? That's where your learnings are. Because you can get really focused on how good you're doing at the front end in the sense of the outcomes, but the important thing is look at we're not talking huge numbers of cases here. We're talking probably 6,000 cases of cardiac arrest in Victoria per year. Pulling them apart and actually having a detailed multidisciplinary clinical review of those cases to look at all those things will tell you what worked and what didn't. And I think for us that's because I've got a philosophical view, and it's easy to say this, but I've got a philosophical view that no one should die of ventricular fibrillation. No one should technically die of VF. In an optimised system, if I drop dead in the airport at Melbourne, my chances of survival are up in the high 90s. So, it's, for me, an optimised system of care leads to survival. So we should, there's got to be this view that VF is a survivable condition, and we need to optimise our system to find out why didn't they survive and what can we do better next time. AED program for first responders, I think we're doing pretty well in this space, I've got to say. We've had a fully integrated fire service response in Melbourne for 20 years. We've had it's rolled out to our career firefighters around the state at the moment, and the program is being finalised at the moment, and that's making a big difference and seeing the jump we've probably seen in firefighter first responder improvement over the last 12 to 18 months. We've got a community first responder program in 22 locations. We've got remote area nurses, Trevor spoke about earlier today. They're automatically responded to all priority zero events. And we do see an opportunity for police because particularly with Good Sam, we see an opportunity for police to come on board in country areas. We see that as the easiest way to do it. We don't have to systemise it with their dispatch system. It can be someone who's on Good Sam within an area carrying an ED mobile in their vehicle. Public access defibrillation, I think we've done some really good work in this space early on, and it sort of stalled for a little bit, just got a little bit while we fixed that issue, and now we've jump-started again with the rollout of Good Sam and some of that work. So we've got 97 AEDs across 25 sites across Victoria that we've been operating since the early 2000s. It's linked to CAD in a limited way, so it's currently linked to CAD on your address. So if you're next door, we don't know the AED's there. It's got to be your address to work in our CAD. So that's not a good system, one we're trying to work through and address. be addressed some way through Good Sam in some degree. We've got 3,500 AEDs in our registry. We recently relaunched. We think there are 15,000 AEDs out there in the community. We had quite a big media interest in this issue around help us find the 15,000 hidden AEDs in the community. We've started seeing them increase, but we've still got a long way to go, I think, to get those AEDs on there. And Mike and his team are doing some good work in capturing new AEDs with the suppliers, but it's the ones that are out there that we don't know about. Rolled out Good Sam, you've heard a bit about that the last couple of days, and we're in active consideration of rolling it out more broadly. Again, I like to not be the first off the rank. Good Sam was rolled out well in the UK, we followed it. St John are rolling it out to the community. We're watching that with interest, and I expect we'll do the same later this year. CPR training, step 8, giving ourselves a tick for that one. So for us, it's we had the 4 Steps for Life program operating again for 16, 17, 18 years. It's rolled out to an estimated 1 million plus Victorians, largely over the age of 50. But it's again stalled a bit. It was a video-based, DVD-based program. It's not contemporary. So we re-energised that with the 3 Steps for Life, Call, Push, Shock, very much adopting the Restart a Heart approach, and that will be rolled out from Restart a Heart Day as well as part of a broader conversation, very similar to what New Zealand are doing in a sense of, so we've loaned it, we've taken it back, and we're now going to use it in a different way. I think it's one of the great collaborative things that happen. It's learning off each other and blatantly stealing from each other for the good of the community, and it's a positive thing, so I love it. So thank you for giving it back to us even better than it was before. We've got an ad hoc CPR in schools program, but I don't think that's our role. I don't think our role is to be out there teaching CPR in schools. I think there are others out there that can do it. I think our role is to actually advocate and do some of the work Tony was talking about earlier, but there's more work to be done in that space, and John in Victoria are doing this work. Why would I compete with them? So I think there's a conversation there about, and how do you systemise that into a curriculum, as we were talking about earlier, is really important. Talked about Restart a Heart Day, an early leader in that space. And we've identified, as you can see, their CPR rates are reasonably good. They're getting better. As you can see there, they've remarkably improved since 2007, 2008. And you can sit there and say, oh, that's really good. We're doing really well in the CPR space. But then someone takes your registry data and does this and tells you, yeah, you might be doing okay, but let's have a look at the local government area. And there are local government areas there that are doing really, really well. And there are other local government areas there that are, some of them, not necessarily disadvantaged, but are telling you that actually you're not doing that well. So using the data from our registry and then working with groups in the research space to actually look at that can say, actually, there are communities that, if you look at the overarching data, it tells you you're doing a good story. If you actually start drilling down into it, it tells you where your opportunities for improvement are. And it's an ambulance service, and I think New Zealand, St John, New Zealand are doing a brilliant job in this space. I think our role is to actually work in communities at risk and communities at disadvantage. That's our social responsibility as an ambulance service. Others can teach into other locations that may be more affluent, in my view. Annual report to the community. We do this. We've got an annual report you've been hearing a bit about today, very similar to others in the room have been talking about. And that just gives you a snapshot of the sort of data we're reporting to our community up there, which gives you, and has taken all the heavy detail, great work Karen and the team do, and puts it into a series of simple snapshots to help us tell the story to the community. And it's a good news story, but it's one that we can never be complacent about, because we have to constantly, continually improve if we want to genuinely argue why. That's why we're here as an ambulance service. So I think we're doing not bad in that space, and it's probably well embedded into our organisation, and as said, it gets a lot of interest every year now it's released, which is wonderful. And towards a culture of excellence. I think we're doing okay in this space. I think, for us, cardiac arrest is a key performance indicator of our ambulance service. It's in my key performance indicators. So it's actually it's right up there with response times and other things. So it's important to me. It's important to my board. I'm measured on it. It's actually discussed by my board. It's actually broken up. So when you include these things in your performance of your organisation, and then you roll it down to all your senior executive and other staff, everyone contributes to improving cardiac arrest outcomes in your organisation. It's important to it. It's part of our DNA as an ambulance service, something we're very proud of, and something that we actually, despite all the issues we maybe faced a few years back as an organisation in public confidence, we never lost sight of why we were here, which is to deliver good care to the community as evidenced by good clinical outcomes. So I think we've got good, strong leadership in our organisation at every level of the organisation. Training is an area that we are working on, I think, and there's some interesting work that David spoke about that I think we'll want to be playing a role in the future. We've got very good quality improvement, but there are ways to take that to the next level I've talked about. And I do think there is, improving survival from cardiac arrest is seeding through the DNA and bloodstream of our organisation at all levels. So I think that's a really good thing. So that's it for us. I think we've got lots of opportunities, doing some good work in some spaces, but we're not there, and I don't think we'll ever get there. And I think the day you think you've got there is the day you've actually probably trying to find a new job. You've got to constantly improve and test yourself and look for others and say, how can we do better? And be open and share, because I've learned so much from every one of you over the last couple of days, and I'm certainly going to be taking a lot of that back to our teams. So thank you.